The very last thing I want to talk about in this module is keeping software patched and current. And this is really important, not only because newer versions of the product are more secure out of the box, but because they evolve in response to emerging threats. I mentioned Drupal right up the start of this course, and the SQL injection vulnerability they had in 2014 is a perfect example of just how on top of patching you need to be. And in fact, as you can see here, if those sites weren't patched within 7 hours of the announcement of this highly critical SQL injection vulnerability, you had to consider the site compromised. 7 hours, that's all you had. As I said earlier, that's not even a good night's sleep. But this is how fast these vulnerabilities move. Once attackers learn of a risk like this, your stuff has to be patched absolutely as soon as possible. Now, this is an extreme example, but certainly it's very common practice for attackers to be trawling the web looking for products with known vulnerabilities. So a really fast, efficient patch lifecycle is absolutely critical. Another good example, and this one's more about using modern versions of software, is XP Command Shell. Now, we looked at that in the last module around advanced SQL injection attacks. And at the time, I explained that XP Command Shell is regularly used in examples of SQL injection, but often it's not explained that this is off by default. And in fact, as you can see here on Microsoft's own site, it's off by default because it is used by malicious actors. Now, if someone was still running on SQL Server 2000, and even a decade after it was superseded, there were still many sites running on SQL Server 2000, they would not get this benefit. This would still be a risk, and this could make the difference between a single SQL injection risk in a single app versus the entire compromise of the environment behind the firewall because the attacker was able to use XP Command Shell to execute arbitrary commands in the target network. So people who upgraded to SQL Server 2005 got this for free. Now, of course, they could still go and turn it off, and yes, that does happen, but the newer product had a secure by default position. And this is often what happens as software iterates. It gets better and better and better, and it does it implicitly. So keeping software both patched and current is enormously advantageous.